This is just a sample of the audiobook. To get the complete audiobook, access the link posted in the first comment.
We smashed into a pole like that. He'd driven for 90 minutes, and we were almost home. My dad said that before he hit the pole, he turned his head for just a second to ask Fran which way was the quickest, when I felt just the slightest tap of the bumper in front of me. It was a new company car, and I remember thinking about all the paperwork I was going to have to fill out because of that one little tap. And that was it. I remember nothing after that. He blacked out. The car was mangled badly on impact. So many people stopped to help. Firemen were called to put out the small, smoldering fire in front of the car. Another man passed the scene of the accident and stopped. By coincidence, this man worked for Fran's father, my Uncle John, in the car wash he owned, and he was the last person to speak with my mother. She was lying on the ground beside our car, and she asked him, "Where are my girls?" She wanted to gather her 3 little girls, and she couldn't. I think her heart must have broken in that moment. And those were her final words. It was so strange and unlikely that someone who knew our family happened to be driving on that empty highway at the same time, enabling me to find out that my mother's last thoughts had been of Katie, Mary, and me. She died 2 hours later in the hospital. My baby sister Katie and cousin Fran were killed instantly. Since Mary and I were in the very back, we just had a concussion and a broken arm, respectively. Katie was buried in the middle of all the wreckage. She was so small they didn't even know that she was in the car. Officially, she died of contusions and pulpefaction of brain. I found that out as an adult when I went through my dad's filing cabinet after he died, and I saw her death certificate. He'd kept this horror to himself for the rest of his life. For so many years, there was this big secret hidden in that filing cabinet. My poor, sweet Katie, I thought. And my dad knew this. He just buried it away. I imagine he must have looked at it once and never wanted to look at it again. There is no way to know exactly what happened that night, though my gut tells me he fell asleep at the wheel. But would he have fallen asleep without the drinking? It still keeps me up at night sometimes. But in the end, all that is relevant is that it changed our lives forever. My sister Mary was the only one who was conscious when the police arrived, so they questioned her. They asked her who'd been in the car. She'd had to tell them everyone's ages and where we had been. They kept saying over and over again how shocked they were at how articulate she was for a 6-year-old. When I came to, there were sirens and lots of people. I remember feeling Mary's body next to mine, our legs touching each other's on a stretcher. And I remember being covered in a blanket that was really itchy. They took us to the hospital and they cut our clothes off, and they gave us tests. Voices asked, "Are the lights on? Are the lights off? Do you feel that? Do you feel that? Can you feel that?" All these tests. And then they put us in a kids' ward. I was doing really well with potty training. I had learned how to not wet myself during the night, but now I had to go to the bathroom. I shouted, "I have to go to the bathroom! I have to go to the bathroom! I have to go to the bathroom, please!" I was trying so hard to hold it. I had training underpants on and I started pleading, "I want my mommy! I want my mommy!" Nobody came, so I just gave up and wet myself. I was despairing. I didn't know what was going on, only that everything was so dark and horrible. So even though I knew not to wet myself, I just gave up and did it anyway. The next morning, I remember waking up in the hospital, my arm in a sling. Mary was in the corner next to a large window. I was in a bed next to her, 4 feet away. It was a really gray day. Mary remembers asking repeatedly, "Where is my mom? I want my mom." But no one would answer her. I didn't know what to do, so I just kept my eyes on Mary in order to follow what she was doing. She would be my guidepost. Whatever she did, I would do. But she just stared out the window and sobbed and sobbed. Then I looked around and saw all these other kids. Some of them were in wheelchairs. Many of them were alone, and I thought, oh, wow, well, I don't know where my parents are, but these kids have it worse than me. They don't even have anybody visiting. I looked around, and he doesn't have a...